Come sit with me for a minute. I'm not going to take long.
At 92, you learn not to waste words. You learn a lot of things, actually. The trouble is, most of it comes far too late. My name is Susan. I turned 92 in January. And I want to tell you something that I mean with every bone in this old body.
Bones that ache now in ways I couldn't have imagined when I was your age. There are 5 things. 5 things I wish somebody had pulled me aside and told me when I was sitting right where you are. When my hair was still dark and my knees still worked and I still thought I had all the time in the world. I didn't, of course. Neither do you. The first thing. I spent most of my 50s and 60s being angry about the wrong things. I had a neighbor. Her name was Carol, and Carol had nicer curtains than me. I know how that sounds, but you have to understand, at the time, it wasn't about curtains. It was about what the curtains meant, that she was doing better, that she had more, that somehow, on some invisible scoreboard I'd been keeping since childhood, she was ahead. I wasted so much energy on that scoreboard. Carol passed away in 1998. I was at her funeral, and I stood there in that little church and I thought, I genuinely could not remember a single conversation we'd had, not one. All those years living 30 feet apart, and what I remembered was her curtains. That's what comparison does. It doesn't just steal your joy, it steals your memory. It fills up all the space where real things should have lived. If I could go back, and Lord, there are days I'd give anything to go back, I'd have walked across that yard and asked Carol how she was doing. Really doing. I think she was lonely. I think we both were. And we spent years being lonely 30 feet apart because we were too busy measuring. Stop measuring. Whatever you're measuring yourself against right now, it isn't real. The person you're comparing yourself to is doing the same thing you are. They're looking at someone else's curtains. The second thing, I didn't know how to receive love, only how to work for it. My husband Bernard, Bernie I called him, he used to try to hold my hand in the evenings. We'd be sitting after dinner and he'd reach over, and I'd pat his hand and get up to do the dishes. There were always dishes to do, or laundry, or something that needed organizing, something that needed doing, something that proved I was useful, that I was good, that I was worth keeping around. I never could just sit. Just be still and let someone love me without earning it first. Bernie's been gone 11 years now. 11 years. And the thing I miss, the thing that catches in my throat when I least expect it, when I'm watching the evening light come through the kitchen window, isn't the big moments. It's that hand, reaching over, and me getting up. All those evenings, all those hands I didn't hold. I think I believed, somewhere underneath everything, that if I stopped being useful, I'd become invisible. That love was a transaction, that I had to keep paying. Nobody told me that some people just love you, that Bernard just loved me, that sitting still beside him wasn't laziness. It was the whole point. If someone is reaching for your hand tonight, stay seated. The dishes can wait. The dishes can always wait. The third thing, I treated my body like it was something to push through, not something to live in. I remember being 58 and tired, deeply, cellularly tired, and my daughter asked me when I'd last taken a day where I did nothing, just nothing. And I looked at her like she'd asked me something in a foreign language. A day of nothing? What would that even mean? I'd built an identity out of productivity, out of motion. A still Susan was a useless Susan, and a useless Susan was unthinkable. So I pushed through the tiredness and the tension in my shoulders and the headaches that came every Thursday. I pushed through all of it. And then, at 67, my body stopped asking and started insisting. 6 weeks in bed with exhaustion so complete I couldn't read a page of a book. Couldn't follow a television program, just lay there while the world went on without me, discovering, to my genuine shock, that it could. The world kept going. Without me running myself into the ground to keep it spinning, It kept going just fine. What I understand now from this side of things is that rest isn't the opposite of contribution. It's the thing that makes contribution possible. A well that's run dry doesn't help anyone. You think you'll rest later, when things slow down, when the children are grown, or the mortgage is paid, or the busy season passes. I thought that too. Later kept moving, and my body kept the score. The fourth thing. I was afraid of the wrong things for far too long. There was a trip to Portugal that my sister Margaret begged me to take with her in 1981. I was 58. Bernie was fine. The kids were grown and scattered. There was no real reason, except I was afraid of flying, and I was afraid of spending the money, and I was afraid that something would go wrong while I was away. And I was afraid, though I didn't have words for it then, of what it meant to want something just for me, just for the pleasure of it, with no practical justification. I didn't go. Margaret went alone and came back luminous. She talked about the light there for years, the quality of the light in the evenings over the water. She talked about it until she couldn't talk anymore. Margaret died in 2019 at 94. Still luminous right to the end. I never saw Portugal. Now I can't. And when I think about that, not with bitterness, I've made my peace with it mostly. What I think is, the fear wasn't protecting me. It was just practicing. Fear practices. That's what I've come to believe. If you let it manage the small decisions, it will be ready and waiting for the large ones. The flight would have been a few hours of discomfort. What I lost was 40 years of wondering. Whatever you're afraid of right now, not the genuine dangers, I'm not talking about those, but the thing you're not doing because it makes you nervous, because it feels indulgent, because you can't quite justify it to that voice in your head that's always tallying. Go. Do it. Go while your knees work and your sister is still here to go with you. The fifth thing, and this one is the hardest. I didn't know who I was, apart from what I did. Mother, wife, worker, organizer, the one who remembered everyone's birthdays and brought the casserole when someone was sick and kept the whole machinery of things running. Those are good things. I don't regret them. But somewhere inside all of it, there was a girl who had wanted to learn to paint, who had been good at it once in school and then set it down when real life began, thinking she'd pick it back up. She didn't pick it back up, not for 40 years. At 72, after Bernie retired and the house got quiet, I finally bought a set of watercolors, cheap ones from the pharmacy. I sat at the kitchen table and I painted a bowl of apples, and it was terrible. It was the most fun I'd had in years. I painted nearly every day from 72 to 88. When my hands started shaking too much, I stopped. But those 16 years, those quiet kitchen table mornings with the cheap watercolors and the bad apples, those are among the things I'm most grateful for. I almost didn't get there. And the reason I almost didn't is that I'd confused who I was with what I was for. You are not only what you're for. There is something in you, some thread of pure, useless, wonderful interest that has nothing to do with productivity or service or what anyone needs from you. Find it. Find it now, in your 50s, in your 60s, while there is still so much morning left. Don't wait until 72 to buy the watercolors. I'm 92 years old. Some days I feel every bit of it. Some days, when the light comes in just right and my granddaughter is laughing about something in the other room, I feel about 34. What I know after all of it, after Bernie and the curtains and Margaret and Portugal and 40 years of unpainted apples, is this. The life you are living right now is not the rehearsal. There is no rehearsal. A Sunday afternoon in your 50s passes the way all Sunday afternoons pass, gently, And then suddenly, and then it's just gone, and you're sitting in the dark, wondering where the light went. Don't spend yours on the scoreboard. Hold the hand. Rest when you're tired. Take the trip. Buy the watercolors. That's it. That's all of it. Everything else I learned in 92 years is just a variation on those 5 things.
If this found its way to you today, pass it along. There's someone you know who's running themselves ragged right now, trying to earn something that doesn't need to be earned.